For the longest time, HR was just paperwork, right? Payroll, policies, the boring stuff. But what if I told you that the way we manage people is actually a company's ultimate secret weapon? Well, let's dive into the incredible story of how HR evolved from searching for a simple formula to mastering a complex and dynamic strategic framework. It all comes down to this idea: Strategic Human Resource Management, or SHRM. And the words to really latch onto here are planned and intended. This isn't about getting lucky. It's about being incredibly deliberate, designing a people strategy from the ground up to help your organization win.
So here's where we're headed. We're going to start with the big promise that got this whole thing started. Then we'll follow the hunt for that magic formula for success, see exactly why that formula shattered, and then explore the much more nuanced framework that's emerged to handle the world we live in today.
All right, let's start at the beginning with the one core idea that completely flipped the script for HR.
This right here was the game changer. The absolutely radical idea that your people aren't just a cost on a spreadsheet, but are actually the most valuable, most critical asset you have. And that simple thought is what moved HR out of the back office and gave it a seat at the main table, right where the big strategic decisions get made.
So, once this huge idea took hold, the next question was pretty obvious. Okay, so how do we actually do it? And that question kicked off this decades-long, massive search for a scientific, repeatable formula for success.
And you can really see this search play out in phases. It started back in the 80s with these big, grand ideas and conceptual models. Then the 90s hit, and it was all about finding the proof, a mad dash to connect specific HR activities to company profits using cold, hard data. But by the time we got to the 2000s, people started finding some holes in that simple story.
Now, the big theory driving this whole search was something called the resource-based view, or RBV. This was the why behind it all. It basically argued that a company's real lasting advantage isn't its patents or its technology, because that stuff can be copied. No, the real advantage is its people, your human capital, but only if it's valuable, rare, and super hard for competitors to imitate. And all of this searching led to the creation of what they called high-performance work systems. Seriously, think of it like a universal recipe for a kick. The thinking was any company, anywhere could just implement this specific bundle of HR practices, things like very selective hiring, tons of training, pay for performance, and poof, your company's performance would just take off. But do you know how it goes with recipes that promise to work for everyone? They almost never do. And this one started to show some pretty serious cracks under real-world pressure. People in the field, both researchers and business leaders, started to take a step back and ask a really fundamental question. In a world with so much variety, could there really be one single formula for managing people that works for every single company in every industry all the time?
And this slide just perfectly captures the biggest problem they ran into: causality. It was the classic chicken or the egg problem. The whole theory was that great HR makes a company perform better, but when they looked at the data, it was just as likely that companies that were already doing great simply had more cash to spend on fancy HR programs. That cause and effect arrow could point in either direction.
The growing doubt was summed up perfectly by Wall and Wood. In 2005, they basically hit the brakes on the whole field, arguing that, hey, this assumption that better HR times inevitably leads to better performance, the evidence just isn't as solid as we thought.
And while all of this academic debate was going on, the world outside was changing so ridiculously fast that any kind of rigid, one-size-fits-all formula was basically becoming useless anyway. I mean, first, just look at the economic and political pressures. You've got constantly shifting labor markets, wages going up because of inflation, globalization changing the competitive landscape, and this tangled web of government rules that's always evolving. It's a ton to deal with.
And then you pile on the tech and social shifts, the rise of the knowledge worker, AI and automation literally reshaping what a job even is, plus these powerful social movements demanding real action on diversity, equity, and inclusion, not to mention a huge new focus on employee mental health. A simple formula cooked up in the 90s just can't handle all this complexity.
And to make this super concrete, just look at this one stat. One projection said that by 2024, a whopping 81% of companies would be using a hybrid work model. Think about that. That single change completely blows up the old rulebook on collaboration, on management, on culture, making any old rigid HR formula instantly obsolete.
So, if the old formula is broken, then what? What's the answer? Well, the modern view is that strategic HR isn't about finding one single right answer.
It's about becoming incredibly skilled at navigating a series of competing tensions or paradoxes.
So the first tension is this idea of fit versus flexibility. See, the old way was all about getting a perfect fit between your HR systems and your strategy. But in a world that changes on a dime, a perfect fit today can become a straitjacket tomorrow. The real magic is having both. A system that's aligned with where you are now, but flexible enough to adapt to whatever is coming next.
Next up is a classic: commitment versus control. For a long time, people saw these as total opposites. You either take the high road and empower your people, or you clamp down with control. But what we're learning is that the best companies don't choose. They masterfully blend the two. They build systems that inspire commitment while also ensuring the necessary compliance and efficiency to run a tight ship.
Oh, this one is a real balancing act. Differentiation versus integration. Look, it makes total sense to invest more in your star players and your most critical roles. But how do you do that without creating a toxic culture of the elites and then everyone else? The challenge is to differentiate strategically while at the same time integrating everyone into one unified culture that feels fair.
And finally, and this is a huge one, the tension between focusing on the actual human capital, the real skills your people have, versus focusing on the HR practices you use to manage them. For years, the field was obsessed with the practices, the systems, the policies. The new thinking is a major shift, recognizing that practices are just tools. The real value, the real goal, is the human capital. Those tools are supposed to be built.
So let's pull all this together and talk about what this means for the future of actually building a winning people strategy. You know, this quote just nails it. The future of strategic HR isn't about making either-or choices. It's not fit or flexibility. It's not commitment or control. Real strategic mastery is about embracing the messiness of both and learning to manage these tensions at the same time.
And that really brings us to the final big question, and this one is for you to think about. Take a hard look at your own organization's people strategy. Is it built on some rigid, old formula designed for a stable world that just doesn't exist anymore? Or is it a dynamic, thoughtful framework intentionally designed to navigate constant, relentless change? Because honestly, the answer to that question could be what determines your future.